If you don't know who you are and you buy into the victim, then you have completely disempowered yourself. So the first thing is to really gain, who am I? Well, listen, I got into this whole business because I didn't believe in spirituality. And there's science and spirituality. Those are the two like opposing forces most of the time.
Yeah.
And I say, well, if I don't believe in spirituality, then my truths have to come from science. So I let go of that whole spiritual stuff and I get into the science. When I started to get into the new biology, which is epigenetics, and how the information from the environment is translated to our genetics, I learned something very important about that each human is different. There are no two humans that are exactly the same. And I can't exchange my cells with any other human, and no other human can put their cells in my body because we say, oh, my immune system will determine it as not self. I said, oh, I have a self. Lilu has a self. Everyone has their own self. I said, where is that self that makes us each different from each other? And that's when I started to put together the information that on the surfaces of our cells, which is like our own skin, a cell, very simple fact, a cell is like a miniature human. Meaning, every function that you can look at in my whole human body, and you tell me a function, digestion, respiration, muscle system, skeletal system, nervous system, I say, I can show it to you in the cell, that every cell has every one of those functions. Why? Because if I'm a human, I'm made out of cells. If anything I do as a human, I must do it because my cells did it. So cells are miniature humans in every degree. And the brain of the cell turns out not to be the genes like what says in the textbook, because the genes are reproduction. The nucleus of the cell with all the genes is not the brain of the cell, it's the gonad of the cell. It's reproduction. And it's funny, I always joke about it in my lecture because I always say, well, science is a male-dominated profession, you know, and that since they think with their gonads and making the brain of the cell the gonad made sense at that time. But the simple reality is that the brain is from the skin, and the cell's brain is the membrane, the skin. And it's interesting, you say, well, does that mean my brain is from my skin? The answer is absolutely. If you understand embryology, the skin, derivatives of the skin form the nervous system. So the skin is the nervous system, okay? On the skin of the cell, there are receptors. Like on our skin, we have eyes and ears and nose, taste, all these sensory receptors. And I say, a cell is a miniature human. It's got all of its sensory receptors on its skin, but it's got one extra set of receptors called self-receptors. That's actually the name in medicine, self-receptors, receivers of self. I go, oh, where are these receptors? They're like eyes, ears, and I said, where are they? Well, on the surface of the cell are these little like television antennas that stick up, and they read the environment. Each one of us has a different set of antennas. And I say, oh, the antennas make us different. I go, no. The antennas receive a signal. It's not the antenna. It's like watching a television set and you have like in the old days with an aerial on the roof. You say, oh, the television show is in the aerial. I go, no. The television show is picked up by the aerial and then played into the television set. So I say, our personal identities that make each one of us different from each other is nothing inside the cell. It's due to a set of antennas like receptors, like eyes, that are reading the universe. And each of us has a different set of these antennas. And so what got to me, I said, oh my God, my personal identity, your personal identity is not inside your body. It's something out here that's being picked up by the antennas. And this blew my mind because basically I said, wait, my identity is not inside here. My identity is out here. Each of us is like a biological television set. My antennas are playing the Bruce show right now. Your beautiful antennas playing Lilu show right now, okay? And I go, but like a television set. If the picture tube breaks on the television, you say, oh, the television is dead. I go, the television's dead, but the question is, did the broadcast die? You say, well, you get another TV and put a set of antennas on there and tune it to the station, and the show is back on the air. And I go, our identity is a broadcast coming in through these antennas called self-receptors, that if I die, that's the television dying. But did the broadcast die? No. Broadcast's still out there in the field. It's still there. How would I know? And the answer is, get another embryo, with the same set of antennas that are on my cells right now, if another embryo comes with the same antennas, it's going to play the Bruce show again. But what's neat is my television a male or a female? It's like, that's a television set. That's not the broadcast. I say, well, is it white or black? I say, that's a television set. It's not the broadcast.
Yeah.
And so here I go from not believing in spirituality, getting into science and saying, okay, this is how it works. And then finally science saying, wait, but my identity is not inside here, it's out here, which takes me right back over to, oh my God, we're spiritual entities. And it was like, in quantum physics, to make it, so people that are nervous about the word spirituality, quantum physics talks about the invisible energy fields as shaping the physical realm. Einstein said simply, the field, which is the invisible forces of quantum physics, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. The particle is the physical body. So quantum physicists say that the physical body or physical particles are a reflection of the invisible field. Well, it's like, wait, what's the definition of the field for quantum physicists? I go, the definition of the field is an invisible moving force that influences the physical world. I go, that's the same definition as spiritualists use about spirit. Spirit is an invisible moving force that influences the physical world. I go, quantum physics and our ancient belief in spirituality are coming together. And this is the other part of the evolutionary understanding. Not only are we genetic mechanisms that we can control the genetics with our thought, but then our personal identity turns out not even to be in here, it's out here. And if we all knew this as knowledge, then we would treat each other quite differently on this planet to recognize that we're here for this very special experience. And the joke for me was funny is that when I first understood, oh my God, there's a spiritual me outside and then a physical me. And I own this spirituality because of the physics at that moment. And I go, why have both? Why have a spiritual body and a physical body? Why not just be spiritual? And when I asked that question to myself, it's funny because my cells, I could feel the answer coming up from myself. And the answer was in the form of a question. It was funny. I asked, why have both? And my cells said, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? And all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, this physical body made out of these cells converts the physical world of sight and sound and smell and taste and touch and love and pain and whatever all these things that we feel come from the cells. So the idea is when we come into a body, it's like stepping into a virtual reality suit that I can smell and taste and feel and experience the planet. And I was like, oh my God, we're here on this delightful experience to live in this beautiful garden. Now, the unfortunate part is we destroyed the garden, found ourselves to be victims of our genetics and our chemistry, look at war as a way of life because Darwinian evolution said that struggle is the whole evolution. And it's like, no wonder we're in a lot of trouble. And if everybody understood the nature of who we are and why we are here, then you'll understand the most wonderful secret that I came across in my own life because I never believed in it. Earth is actually heaven. It's where we come to create and fulfill desires and dreams and imagination. It's where we come to experience sensation. Yes, some things hurt, and yet some things feel great. Some things are love, some things are fear. And the whole idea is that you have an opportunity to land on this planet, step into this suit, create your reality from your imagination, experience all of this stuff, and then when you die, you leave the suit, but you're still there. But when you're out of the suit, all of this physical stuff is not accessible anymore. You have to come back into the suit again. So many people look at this planet and say, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of this place. And I'm thinking, no, you don't understand. This was the place to be.
Yeah.
This is where all the action is. And as I said, if you're just a spirit, you can't see what a sunset looks like. If you're just a spirit, you can't have a feeling called love because love is the chemistry of the body creating an energy signal that goes back to our source. And so people have taken heaven, bought other people's stories, made belief out of them. Instead of believing in their wishes and their desires, they bought the other people's story, which the other ones were disempowering.
Yeah.
And so basically, we've come to heaven and created other people's vision, and guess what? We turned it into hell. It's like, oh my God, when do we change it?
Yeah. And how do we change it? How do we liberate the memory cells or those limiting beliefs?
Okay. Well, the whole idea is this. The research really reveals that remember I said the cell membrane is the skin of the cell, and it's the interface between the external environment and the biology inside, the genes and the behavior. So the skin reads the environment and adjusts the biology. Well, here's an interesting fact, is that when we create a human with trillions of cells, the cells still have to read the environment and adjust their biology, otherwise they won't survive. Mm-hmm. So I say, well, in a trillion-cell organism like a human, I have a special thing called the brain and the nervous system, whose job is to read the environment and then adjust this 50 trillion cells, their behavior and their genetics to fit in the environment. So the nervous system, part of the skin, is to read the environment and tell the cells. Well, the problem is we put a mind somewhere between the environment and the cells. We got this mind.
Yeah.
Well, the mind there's two parts to the mind. There's the conscious mind, which is connected to our spirit and our source and our identity. And there's the subconscious mind, which is the equivalent of a record playback, like a tape recorder. Mm-hmm. It records experiences that we repeat over and over again, so that
all the way there, huh? All this part.
What's that?
All this part.
Almost all of this part, with only this little part right here in the front. This little piece right in front of your forehead, right there. That part is where the conscious part is. The rest of the whole thing is subconscious.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem. The mind interprets the environment, and the mind sends the signals to the cell, and then the cell adjusts the genetics and the behavior to fit the perception. And then I say, yeah, well, here's the problem. That our mind, the conscious mind, is the one connected to our spirit. It has our wishes, our desires, what we want from life. If I ask you legally, I say, tell me what you want out of your life. I know the answer is going to come from this little conscious part, and you're going to tell me all your wishes. And I go, yeah, but how come if we're creating our lives that I don't see all my wishes manifest out here? I have better wishes than I'm experiencing. What's wrong? And here comes the issue. And if we understand this is the breakthrough. And it goes like this. The conscious mind, which is creative and has your personal identity, also has the ability to travel. The conscious, I could say, Lila, what are you doing next week? And you could create a vision in the future. I say, what did you do last week, last Monday? And then you go back and you think, okay, I went back in my mind, I went to the past. And I go, oh, no, okay. While you're sitting here, I want you to do the square root of 2 and tell me what that number is. And at some point I'll see that, well, you're not paying attention now. Your mind is going up and trying to solve mathematics up here somewhere. What's the point? The conscious mind travels. It's not staying present. Uh-huh. And so I said, yeah, but then if your mind is not paying attention, then what's paying attention? I go, the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind runs the show 95% of the time. Meaning 95% of the time my mind is not paying attention to what's going on. And as a result, as my conscious mind's going all over the place, I need the subconscious mind, like the robot mind, to take care of everything. And the issue about it is when I'm using the subconscious mind, I'm using it because I'm not paying attention. Which means when the subconscious mind's playing its programs, I don't see it because my mind wasn't paying attention. I'll give an example.